Wait, are the Tennessee Titans going to make the playoffs? The playoffs? I don't think so, but I'll tell you how they can do it on today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. Let's get it.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Titans podcast. I am your host, Tyler Rowland. Titans fans, today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. We got to talk about the playoffs, ladies and gentlemen, because the Titans pulse, it was flatline, but an upset comeback victory led by an incredible performance from Will Levis. A record-breaking performance from Will Levis has the Titans feeling hope once again. And I saw that hope on social media on Tuesday. So we're going to talk about how the Titans can make the playoffs from here. Also, how many more games will the Titans win the rest of the year? And I got news for my tankers out there. The tank is done. I'll talk about that and much more on today's show. Before we get into it, thank you for making the Locked On Titans podcast your first listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round on all apps, always for free. Make sure you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day here on the Locked On Titans podcast. Shout out to my everydayers out there tuning in Monday through Friday, crossover Thursday tomorrow with Locked On Texans, game plan Friday. This is a big game for the Titans, and they have a great chance to win. But with that in mind, let's talk about their great chance to win, because up next for the Titans is a home game wearing the throwbacks. Mike Vrabel joked he might have to wear an old school cowboy hat. Shout out to Bum Phillips, but a game against Houston at home. Then a game against Seattle at home. Then another game against Houston at Houston. And then finally Jacksonville at home. Let's be honest with ourselves. If the Titans play good football like they played on Monday night for the most part, I mean, the defense played well. The offense had their moments. The offense scored 28 points. I'm not going to pretend like it was a bad offensive day. There were mistakes out there. But if the Titans play the football they're capable of, they get Jeffrey Simmons back. That would be very helpful as well. They absolutely could win all four of those games. None of those games do I see and feel like how I felt about the Miami game. And the Miami game should be a lesson that we never know. The Titans can win at any moment. With Will Levis at quarterback, the Titans can win at any moment. They have enough talent to do so. They just don't always put it together, as we know. But those four games, C.J. Stroud is probably going to be out of this game. He got a concussion. Tank Dell, Nico Collins banged up. I mean, Houston is super banged up right now. They have a ton of injuries. But with C.J. Stroud most likely missing this game, even if Stroud ends up playing in this game with the Titans at home, I think there's a chance that they win that one. And if Stroud doesn't play, I absolutely think the Titans win. And I think on FanDuel Sportsbook right now, the early line, the Titans are like -2.5, something. I love that if C.J. Stroud doesn't play. Now, I'm not acting like the Titans can't lose to Davis Mills. They absolutely can, but I'm just saying that is a very winnable game at home in the throwbacks against probably the Davis Mills-led Houston Texans. The Seahawks are beat up right now. Geno Smith, Devon Witherspoon are both hurt. I mean, it's possible. But even if they win out all of their games, it's still going to be tough to make the playoffs because they're going to need help from other people. So let's say that the Titans win out and go 9-8. Okay? The Colts would need to go 1-3 the rest of the way. They have a game against Pittsburgh, Atlanta, Las Vegas, and Houston. They would have to go 1-3. Houston would have to go 2-2 at minimum the rest of the season. They have 2 games against the Titans, which the Titans have to win those to have any chance. And then Houston could even win against Cleveland and Indianapolis. They could. We need Houston to beat Indianapolis, honestly, at the end of the year. And then Jacksonville would have to go 0-4 the rest of the way, or 1-3 the rest of the way, actually. And they play the Ravens, the Buccaneers, the Panthers, and then, of course, finish with the Titans. So do I think that the Titans run the table here and make the playoffs? No. They just need too much help. They would need too much to break right. But at the end of the day, they have two paths. They are alive. They could maybe get in the wild card race, but I don't think that's realistic. What's most realistic is winning the division, is stealing back the AFC South. And again, it is possible. The Titans can win out and then do what I just said. Colts go 1-3, Texans go 2-2, Jags go 0-4, and the Titans would win the division outright at 9-8. Or even if Jacksonville goes 1-3 and the Titans beat the Texans twice and win out, if the Texans and Jaguars and Titans all tied at 9-8, the Titans would still win. The Titans would win the division, because in games with those three teams, so the 2 games, the Houston against Jags, 2 games Jags against Titans, 2 games Houston against Titans, the 6 games between those 3 teams, the Titans would be 3-1 in their 4 games. Jacksonville would be 2-2 in their 4 games. And then Houston would end up being 1-3 in their 3 games. So if the Titans win the division outright 9-8, then they're in. But if the Titans tie the Texans and the Jags at 9-8 at the end of the year, and they beat the Texans twice and then beat Jacksonville at the end of the year, the Titans would have the tiebreaker because of the 3-way matchup between those 3 teams. So, do I think the Titans run the table and make the playoffs? No. But is it possible? It is absolutely possible. And New York Times gives the Titans a 1% chance of making the playoffs. 1%. Again, not very likely. But you're telling me there's a chance? You're telling me there's a chance. That's all the Titans need to get up on. That's all the Titans need to motivate them going forward. There is a chance. It is still mathematically possible. And you look at this, the Titans need the Colts to go 1-3. Pittsburgh, Atlanta, Vegas, Houston, Atlanta, Vegas, Houston, Atlanta, Vegas. Let's go. But I'm just saying, the Colts could win those games, but they're losable games as well. The Colts just got drubbed by the Bengals and Jake Browning. Texans, 2 games against the Titans have to win those. A game against Cleveland with a good defense. I mean, if the Texans are still beat up and Jacksonville is the Ravens, I think the Ravens win that. At Tampa Bay, that's a tough game against the Buccaneers. Versus the Panthers, Jags are probably going to win that one. And then the Titans. So if the Buccaneers can just beat the Jags, the Titans have a great chance. So do I think they do it? No, I don't. Is it possible, though? There are multiple paths that make it possible. So let me know down below. Do you think the Titans make the playoffs? Let me know down below. But with that being said, how many games do I think the Titans are going to win then? If I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, how many more wins do the Titans get? We're going to talk about the opponents, break down some of these matchups going forward. Before we get into that, though, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook. Look, as the weather gets colder, the NFL deals stay hot on FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. So you bet $5 on a team to win, and if they win, you get $150 in bonus bets. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there is no better time to get in on the action. The NFL season is almost gone. You want to make sure that you appreciate it while it's here, and you can do that on FanDuel. The app's super easy to use. You do spreads, player props, over-unders. I love the single-game parlays where you combine a bunch of stuff together, bet a little to win a lot. Make sure that you visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn. That's LOCKEDON. FanDuel.com/LockedOn and get in on the action this NFL season. It's FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Titans fans, let's continue today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. We're talking about the playoff chances for the Titans. I cannot believe that we are here after an incredible upset against the Miami Dolphins. I still think it's a little far-fetched here, but hey, again, as we just outlined, it is entirely possible, and there is a realistic path for the Titans to make the playoffs. But how many more wins are they going to get? We know that they need all four. They have to win out to really have a shot to make the playoffs. I don't think they do that, but how many more wins do they get? Before I get into that, thank you for making the Locked On Titans podcast your first listen each and every day. Tomorrow, crossover Thursday, Friday, game plan Friday. I'll be live after the game on Sunday. Make sure you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day here on the Locked On Titans podcast. But first, let me know down below how many wins you think the Titans get. So here is the schedule again. Home against Houston this weekend. Then they have a primetime game against, or standalone is what you want to call it, but they have a highlighted game, I believe it's on Christmas Eve, against the Seattle Seahawks at home. 2 home games back-to-back. Coming off this win against the Dolphins. Oh, buddy. And then the Titans go to Houston. At Houston, Week 17. Week 18, home game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So, you look at Houston, like I talked about. They're banged up. C.J. Stroud probably has a concussion. They're already talking about how they're more concerned with the long-term aspects here. So, I doubt we see C.J. Stroud this weekend. I doubt it. With that, at home, great chance for the Titans to win. And I think the Titans win that game. I'm going to be picking the Titans to win that game against the Texans. Then again, you have the home game against Seattle. Like I mentioned in the first segment, Geno Smith banged up, could be Drew Lock. Now, I don't think Drew Lock is as bad as some other backups in the NFL, but you're just not getting the best version of the Seahawks. And more importantly, rookie standout cornerback Devon Witherspoon probably not going to play. He's got a severe hip pointer. So there's a good chance he doesn't play in 2 weeks either. So with a banged-up Seattle team coming all the way across the country to Nashville to play on Christmas Eve when they probably want to be with their families, great opportunity for the Titans to get the win. Great opportunity. All right? And then after that, I think is where it's going to get tough because now we're talking 3 weeks removed from the concussion. I think C.J. Stroud probably plays in Week 17 in Houston. I think the Titans win in Week 15 at home. Houston will be looking for revenge. And look, I think Houston's got a pretty good roster. I think Houston hired some good coaches. That is going to be a tough game if they have C.J. Stroud back. All right? If a guy like Nico Collins is back, blah, blah, blah. If they get any of their guys back, who knows? At this time, we're talking about 3 weeks from now. But if they get any of their guys back, looking to get revenge, at home in Houston. We know about the Titans' road struggles. I know they just beat Miami, but that doesn't erase a season long of road losses. So I think the Titans lose that game. I don't think that the Titans are better than Houston. I think the teams are pretty similar. And with that in mind, I think there should be a split there. So I think the Titans lose that game against the Houston Texans in Week 17. And then Week 18 with Jacksonville is the interesting one here because Jacksonville could have their seed wrapped up and they could rest players. Trevor Lawrence dealing with the high ankle. Christian Kirk obviously banged up. There are going to be injury issues for Jacksonville that if they don't stand to gain anything from beating the Titans in Tennessee on the road, then they probably won't play some guys. And if they do that, that could set the Titans up. But again, if they lose the next 2 games against the Ravens and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they will not be in that position. They will have to be playing the Titans for something. If the Titans can win their next 3 games and go to 8-8, and Jacksonville were to go 1-3 in their next, or not 1-3, but 1-2 in their next 3 games, Jacksonville is going to have no choice but to play for something. I mean, the Titans are going to be knocking on the doorstep then. So it's there. It's in the realm of possibility, but winning 5 games in a row to finish the season just doesn't seem like something this Titans team is going to do. And look, last night, the Titans were down by 2 scores with 3 minutes left and made a miraculous comeback. I'm not going to allow that to trick me into thinking that the Titans are a good team now and they figured things out, and that there were a lot of little things that went the Titans' way in that game to allow them to come back. I'm not trying to sully the win. I'm just telling you, don't get so high off the your own supply that you're like, oh, the Titans are now better than Houston. The Titans are better than the Jags. They're going to beat them. That, like, let's just, the wide receiver issues, the offensive line issues, the secondary issues all still persist. When are they getting Jeff Simmons back? They weren't able to run the ball yesterday. They had bad turnovers. A lot of things happened to get the Titans back in that game and make that possible. It was a miraculous comeback. So I'm just not banking on, I guess here's my point. If we see the version of the Titans that we saw against the Dolphins, they probably lose most of these games because they've made too many mistakes, and they're going to get some of the lucky thing, not lucky, but some of the just miraculous happenings that happened on Monday Night Football. So to me, you ask how many more wins the Titans are actually going to have this season. For me, it's 2. I think the Titans win 2 more games, and here we are again at 7-10. The Titans get a draft pick between 11 to 14, 11 to 15, somewhere in there, not in the top 5 like we were thinking, blah, 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 all of that. That's what I'm expecting here from the Titans. 2 more wins. They get the 2 home wins. They go on the road to Houston, and they lose. And we're like, oh, okay. We saw Will Levis win games, blah, 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 blah. They're actually out of it now. Let's settle in. That's where I think the Titans are at. And with that being said, the tank is done. The Titans have 5 wins. I think they win 1 or 2 more games. Marvin Harrison Jr., Joe Olafashanu, that dream is almost dead. It is almost dead, and if the Titans win this weekend and get to 6 wins, I'm sorry. I think the dream is gone for good. Which, hey, winning and seeing Will Levis make these moments may be more important long-term, but it's definitely a debate worth having. So we're going to talk about the tank and the health of the tank here in just a moment. Before we do, though, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is daily fantasy sports made easy. Look, you don't have to go against 1,000 lineups from a bunch of different bots or a bunch of different sharps and all that stuff. It's just you against the PrizePicks projections. It's so simple to create an entry on PrizePicks. It can take 60 seconds or less. So what do you got to do? PrizePicks has a projection for every player. Derrick Henry, 50 rushing yards. Will Levis, 1 passing touchdown. DeAndre Hopkins, 4 catches. All you do is you pick 2 to 6 players and say whether that player is going to do more or less than what PrizePicks projects. It's not you against 1,000 different things. It's just you against the projections. And if you get your selections right, you can win up to 25 times your money. So simple, fun, easy to do, big time winning potential. You got to check out PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use the code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that's prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use the code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. It's PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. Titans fans, let's cap off today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. We're talking about the playoffs, baby. The playoff push for the Titans. No, I don't think the Titans are getting into the playoffs, but there are some realistic paths available, which I charted out. How many wins do I think the Titans are going to get? For me, it's 2 more. I don't think they're going to run the table, but the circumstances laid out certainly make it possible. Let me know how many more wins you think the Titans are going to get. But with more wins comes the death of the hope of the tank. Some of you guys are laughing right now because you never wanted to tank anyway. You didn't care. You'd rather win the games. Some of you are happy about what Will Levis has done, but do realize the reality that this is getting much closer to keeping us out of the Joe Alt and Ola Fashanu sweepstakes. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. was probably always a little bit of a pipe dream, but a top 5 pick definitely got further away last night in the biggest upset the Titans are going to have all year. And again, I think the Titans are going to win 2 more games and go to 7-10 on the season. They are certainly not going to be in the top 10 or firmly in the top 10. They could maybe be 10, maybe 9, something like that. But they're not going to be in a position to get Marvin Harrison Jr., Joe Alt, or Ola Fashanu, the guys that we've all been fawning over for the last 2 months. They're simply not. And look, I don't know that I agree. But I will at least represent the opposing opinion. As I said last night, Will Levis having this experience, Will Levis winning these games, the guys in the locker room believing in Will Levis, knowing he can lead them to victories, knowing no matter how improbable, again, 767 instances where a team was down by 2 scores with under 3 minutes. None of them were able to come back and win in regulation. None of them. And the Titans did. Will Levis is the first rookie quarterback to throw for 300 yards on Monday Night Football. All of that stuff is important. You want to talk about what's more important, getting one of those big 3 guys in college draft that I just talked about, Alt, Fashanu, Harrison Jr., or some of these defining moments for Will Levis as a rookie to really set up his career path? What's more important there? You guys let me know what you think is more important. But all I will say is I will represent the opposing view and just say there is something to be said that these wins, these moments, all of that do matter. They are more important than draft pick positioning, all of that. There is an argument to be made about that. I recognize that. So with that being said, and if the Titans do beat the Texans this week, which is what I'm expecting to see, that means, like I said, that Joe Alt, Ola Fashanu, Marvin Harrison Jr., that dream is over. But then we move on. And there are some really good players that will be in the Titans' range no matter what happens here. All right. Think about wide receivers. Malik Neighbors. Freak. LSU wide receiver Malik Neighbors. What about Ramadunze, the wide receiver from Washington? I love me some Ramadunze. I do. He would be in that range for the Titans. Brock Bowers, in this Titans offense that uses 2 tight ends, that wants to have a balanced attack with the run game, a top flight tight end, a top tier tight end could be just as valuable as that wide receiver too. Brock Bowers could be just as valuable, maybe even more valuable in the Titan system than a Malik Neighbors or a Ramadunze. I mean, it's at least a logical possibility. If you still want to go offensive line, Mims, Latham, Fuaga. I mean, there are going to be other really good players and this is a more talented draft than last year. When I talk about Peter Skoronski as a draft pick for the Titans, and I always go, they drafted a guard at pick 11. I have said that saying that is stupid because you have to evaluate the draft class. Like, in this draft class, were there other premium position players who were better than Peter Skoronski? My argument is no. And again, I said when we talked about this a couple weeks ago, maybe you want to say Broderick Jones. You should have gone with Broderick Jones, played him at left tackle rather than taking Skoronski and putting him at left guard. Okay, you can make that debate. I would still take Peter Skoronski. And I think once you get a real left tackle next to Skoronski, it is going to show just how valuable he is. But this draft class is better than last year's. This draft class has way more talent than last year's at the top. So even if the Titans pick a couple of spots lower or in the same spot as last year, they are going to get a better player than what they would have got in that spot last year because of the talent in this draft. That's why Skoronski was the right pick, because the talent of the draft class overall wasn't very good. And that's why this year, maybe dropping back a few spots isn't as bad as it appears. You may lose out on Ola. You may lose out on Joe Alt. You may lose out on Marvin Harrison Jr. But Malik Neighbors, Brock Bowers, whichever tackle you think is offensive tackle 3, probably better than the players who went higher than those picks last year. Think like Tyree Wilson. You know what I mean? Good example there. So just keep that in mind as we move forward. If you're somebody who's disappointed about the draft pick situation, I get it. But the positive benefits of Will Levis winning games, along with the quality of the draft pick that the Titans will still likely have and the quality of player the Titans will still likely be able to get, it could be worse. It could be worse. So me, as someone who has been a tank commander all season for this team, I'm just here to tell you, don't be too worried about it. It's going to be okay. And try to make sure that you enjoy these rookie moments for Will Levis, even if it means the draft position gets worse. So let me know, what do you think down below? Are the wins and the experience more important? Is the draft pick positioning more important? Are you okay with dropping back into that next tier of players? All the stuff that we're going to be talking about throughout the next 4 weeks. But man, what a fun game. What a fun thing to recap. Can't wait. I mean, with it being a Monday night game, the season or this week is going to move so quickly. Like so quickly. I barely get a chance to watch the film in weeks like this. Tomorrow is going to be crossover Thursday. I mean, it's already crossover Thursday tomorrow. So we'll be talking with the guys from Locked On Texans. It'll be Cody. It'll be John. One or the other. Both. Who knows yet. But I'll make sure to have that out to you guys tomorrow. And then Game Plan Friday will be directly after. So make sure you get subscribed. Stay subscribed. Do want to remind you guys, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts from Locked On, plus national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube. Subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Be a part of history. But again, I'll be back with you guys for Crossover Thursday tomorrow. That is going to do it for me today, folks. As always, I am your host, Tyler Rowland, and this was Locked On Titans.